Morning, YouTube. Um, so I know I said I was gonna make another video following my first one as soon as possible, and it's already been a month. But I guess it's kind of consistent because at least it hasn't been more than a month. Last month was January, this month is February, right? And coffee in the morning. Um, I also thought that it would be easier for me just to record the video, with my face and everything, because why not, right? Because I said voice recording, editing, it's just a whole lot of work, a lot of stuff. The digital stuff is not really my field of expertise, right? I only know how to make a thumbnail and just call it a day, right? I must have spent like maybe 2 hours editing the last video, so I said, whatever, man. I'm not gonna do that. Um, so today's topic is gonna be on the education system, the K through 12 here, right? I may or may not have viewers outside the US, but this one's for more for those in the US, right? And I know this topic's been covered to death, but I just want to give it my take on it, right? My raw thoughts and unedited, filtered, unfiltered, I mean, rather. Um, so I'm just gonna bring a little bit more context these past few years, right? So I just been working. I'm a caretaker and I'm a professional. I'm a personal assistant. And some of the stuff that you have to learn there is just CPR, first aid, and crisis prevention, right? Stuff like that. And medication administration. And outside of that, it's you don't really, you do what you got to do at the workplace, right? And these past 2 years doing that after university, of course, because I graduated like around 2 years ago. Um, and also reflecting on some of the work experience I had in the past, because sometimes I used to do construction, right, home renovation, or at least assist in it, right, because I didn't actually. I know how to paint. I know how to help installing tiles, stuff like that. A little bit of woodwork. But these past 2 years reflecting on that, and then the two jobs that I have, of course, I've learned that something the K through 12 and even to an extent college, what they don't really teach us is creating meaningful skills, right? Because I feel like everyone would benefit from having first aid, CPR, stuff like that, right? I feel like that should be a necessity for anyone here in the school system, or I guess as a citizen, right? But it's a free country. But at last, the education system teaches you useless stuff. When am I gonna learn 3.14 equals pi outside of school or at a workplace? No, nowhere, right? Or the mighty mitochondria or whatever it's called. When am I gonna actually use that stuff in the real world? The answer to that is never. And now that I'm talking about it, or rather thinking about it, what the education system really has taught us is to be a blind, unthinking worker and not be critical thinkers. There's a quote from the last century of this lobbyist who did a little bit of lobbying for the school system. Says, oh, I forgot his name, but he said something along that line, right? And I feel like ever since graduating and going outside the school system, reflecting on it, I feel like that's just what it's all been about. at school, they're like, you must use your critical thinking. They don't actually promote actions to make you critically think. Only search for the answer that the professors or I guess the teacher want in the way they want it, right? Otherwise, your answer is incorrect, and if you fail, you don't get incentivized. There's you get punished for failing. It's just human nature to fail, right? And they don't want that in the workforce or I guess in the corporate world, right? They want blind, loyal workers, mindless, programmed workers not to fail because, well, then, it affects profits, right? So that makes sense on that point of view, or at least to me, maybe not to you guys. But they don't incentivize, or at least they don't encourage people to fail because failing is horrible, right? Part of the learning experience that I've learned these past few years, and it was very humbling, is that in order to learn, you must learn how to fail, right? And in the education system, if you're straight A perfectionist, once you're thrown out in the real world and you start to fail, you take it the wrong ways. It's just I know I was like that a little bit because I tried to be a perfectionist, right? A's, B's, but mostly B's. Oh, A's rather. Especially in college, right? But being a perfectionist, being a good programmed worker, it's not going to take you far in life. Well, maybe in the workforce, but not in life. And another thing I want to talk about, or I guess rather want to go back to talking about, is skills. Yes, learning knowledge is important, right? You want to learn, I don't know, philosophy, psychology. I major in psychology, chemistry, right? That stuff is good, and we need white collar jobs, right, in order to have a functioning society, right? But then the problem arises, AI, and or I guess even before that, whatever, right? And comfort, AI and comfort kills. I think those two come hand in hand. That with AI, the implications of that is that it's going to take white collar jobs, right? Slowly, slowly, or maybe not slowly, but like a little bit on paced, not too fast, not too slow, right? And then with at least with a blue collar job, it'll take a lot longer because it's actual manual labor, right? And so yeah, AI is gonna take jobs and then it's gonna leave people unemployed. And the problem with that is that people focus only on their studies, studying only one thing throughout their education system process, actually. They're only focused on that, and then once they'll get replaced, it's like, what do I do now? Right? And then I guess that's where the whole part of the comfort thing I was talking about comes into play. We've been very comfortable living the way we are now with the internet and whatnot, right? That I felt that we forgot how to have meaningful skills, as I mentioned before. Like, I would say knowing how to knot, right? Cord wires, no, not cord wires, but cordages, right? I feel that's one. Learning how to give maintenance to your tools, obviously that's one, because then how are you gonna do stuff, right? Without tools. Learning how to use tools properly, that's another skill. Um, well, learning how to shoot a firearm, of course, a firearm, archery, that kind of stuff. And learning a little bit of medicine, obviously that's a skill. Knowing how to, mm, perform medical tasks, that's a skill right there in itself. And then another thing I would add in the whole skill category is learning how to garden, right? Learning how to filter and purify your water. Those are skills to be self-sufficient, independent, right? I My bad. My mom needed to use the kitchen, so I had to move over here. I was holding on to the thought. Um, so with oh yeah, another skill would be obviously stuff involving to do with blue collar stuff, right? HVAC, painting, learning how to install tiles, learning how to, I guess, add on or replace walls, right? Or make wall repairs, that kind of stuff. And learning new skills as a whole generally would make you less replaceable, or, obviously you'll get replaced if you're a white collar job. But what I mean by that is that you won't be unemployed because you'll have some other skills at your disposal that'll help you gain more income, right? And obviously you'll actually be learning things, right? Not learning, oh, biology or chemistry, mathematics, imaginary numbers. Why is the a right next to the three if I'm only dividing or subtracting the two? Is stupid stuff like that, imaginary stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, skills that you'll actually learn, right? Learn and actually apply to your everyday life. Like I said, gardening, filtering, and purifying your water, painting, stuff like that. Things that have to do with the home and medical stuff as well, right? And self-defense, right? I know a little bit about kickboxing, so that's another one. Skills like those, I feel like are important to learn and to have, and obviously something that the education system would never teach us because actually that's another topic for another video, right? But anyways, they don't care about us, so we have to do what we can to survive, learn skills, right? Learning many, many, many skills in order in order eh, in order to be as self-sufficient as possible, right? And yeah, I think that's about everything that I wanted to talk about, at least in this video, right? Um, Part of the skills, or at least in my journey, right? Obviously, I major in psychology, so I know a few things, right? In terms of behavior, in terms of like stuff like that, right? And then CPR, first aid, right? And then I want to go back to school in the fall to learn more stuff about medicine, so I'll be looking forward to that. And learning how to nod with cordages, stuff like that. I have a crossbow, so I've been learning how to shoot that. So stuff like that is pretty cool. Oh, learning how to start a fire, right? Like a contained fire, right? Like a campfire. There you go. That was the word I was looking for. And obviously giving maintenance to your tools, right? Because not everything is like the movies, or yeah, like the movies. Like when you use guns, pa 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 pa. Oh, okay. Leave them on the floor, call it a day, and then just use them tomorrow, right? No, you have to give maintenance to those weapons, otherwise, it risks it, it gets the risk of jamming and then potentially blowing up in your face, right? At least the gun, right? Because if the bullet's jammed, pull the trigger and then blah, all the medical particles, medical metal, metal fragments hit your face, right? So, stuff like that. And yeah, I think that's really about it. So, one more thing. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.